Good afternoon, Brookwood High School. My name is William Blair, and I'm one of the school counselors here at Brookwood. With 95% of students representing themselves in some way online, we want to look at some of the legal concerns as it relates to students and their online footprint. So today we're going to be talking to our school resource officer, Officer Gammon. Well, I'd like to thank you, Officer Gammon, for coming in.
Yes, sir.
How important is online safety?
A lot of kids don't realize how important online safety is. Not only does it affect them, but it can also affect their parents.
That's why they're here.
Stolen identities are a big problem. People putting too much personal information online. It's very easy for people to create bank accounts in other people's names.
Okay.
So now not only is the student liable for funds, but their parents may be liable because they're minors.
Okay. Have you seen a trend of certain things happening like in a local school or in a public school?
The local trend recently has been using internet and social media to bully other students or to threaten other students.
Mm-hmm.
This can have some very serious school and legal ramifications if this is found to be true.
Okay. What are some of the misconceptions that students talk about that you've been hearing in your office?
One of the biggest misconceptions is the fact that when something's put on the internet, that it can be erased or deleted.
Oh, okay.
Once you put it out there, it's out there, and it's going to stay out there in some form or fashion on someone's server, just depending on what you use.
Okay. There's kind of a buzzword that I'm hearing in my office as a counselor, but I'm sure you've heard it too. Catfishing. What is it, and how can students get in trouble by being catfished?
Catfish, the Manti Te'o incident.
Okay.
Where someone pretends to be someone they're not to
Right.
gain an advantage or information about someone else to take advantage of them or to blackmail them.
Okay. What about Snapchat? That's another buzzword that students seem to think that is an innocent site. Have you seen any issues with Snapchat?
Snapchat has already gotten a lot of kids in trouble around the county.
Okay.
Just because the picture disappears off their phone in 10 seconds, 5 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it's not kept on a server for Snapchat somewhere.
Oh, okay. Now, how does their online presence affect them at school?
Something as simple as what the kid feels like taking a picture may have items in the background that have legal ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
When they feel like they need to threaten another student for whatever reason, that can have ramifications.
Okay.
Any number of things that the kids do, even at home,
Mhm.
can have an impact on their school career and what happens to them legally.
Okay. So what would be considered an inappropriate message?
Anyone under the age of 18 that sends a picture of lewd content
Okay.
can be inappropriate. And if they're under 18 and they send pictures of themselves or receive pictures, they are then transmitting and receiving child pornography and can be charged with such.
Okay, so if they receive something, what should they do with that inappropriate picture?
The minute that they receive it, they need to either A, alert their parents if they're at home, or they need to bring it to an adult at school's attention saying, I did not ask for this, I did not want this, but it was sent to me.
Okay. So do you have anything that you would like to say to students as a whole about this whole online activity? What are some things that you would suggest?
Be careful what you post. It never truly goes away. It's always there. Someone can always find it. I can subpoena the company and get a record of just about everything that you've done online if I know where to look.
Okay.
So just be careful what you put up because it will come back to bite you eventually.
There you have it, Brookwood. You've heard it from our SRO. You heard it from our media specialist. Thank you and have a great day. Okay, now that we've talked to our school SROs, our school resource officers, now we want to speak to our media specialists, Ms. Jan Wilson and Ms. Angeline Collins. Ms. Wilson, can you tell us what a digital footprint is?
Sure. When we say digital footprint, we're talking about the trail that you leave behind anytime you go online. So anything you share, comment on, or search, that evidence is left behind.
Okay.
Students really need to think about what digital footprint they want to leave behind because it's permanent. It never goes away.
So that's great. So what happens if you delete something?
I tell students that once you post something, you can never really take it all back because someone else could copy and paste it, or it could already be stored on a server somewhere.
Oh, okay. Now I hear a lot about young people know a lot more than the adults. Is that true, or is that a misconception?
Well, part of that is a misconception because students definitely know more about new apps and technology,
Okay.
but the experience of adults teaches us to think about the dangers of what we're doing and what the consequences are, and that's what young people don't always consider.
Ms. Collins, how can information that a student posts online affect their future?
Well, in terms of college admissions, an applicant's online presence is taken into consideration.
Okay.
So students need to make sure that they have somewhat of a neutral presence, such as a neutral profile picture. They need to make sure that their email should be somewhat professional and maybe have a separate email just for college applications.
Great idea.
So something like pandababy@hotmail.com, that's not as professional as a presence as you want to present to a college. So
Yeah.
I would suggest that they change it to a more professional email.
Yeah. Okay.
When we talk about potential employment, recruiters, and this is even for the armed forces, and employers look at a social media presence.
Yeah.
Not so much as a part-time job at Target or Brewster's, but as a serious job applicant, they will look at your social media accounts.
Yeah.
Do you have questionable material in your photos?
Right.
Is your screen name immature?
Right.
And even some recruiters for armed forces or jobs look at spelling and grammar.
Yeah, certainly.
So that's important.
And one more thing they need to think about are captions, because a caption on a picture basically gives someone who is not familiar with you an idea of who you are as a person.
Okay.
So if your caption of a girl at a party smiling, it would be more preferable if the picture said always smiling versus always partying.
Right, right.
So students need to be aware of that words really do matter.
Right, right. Now, with that being said, how can students respect the privacy of another student?
Well, one thing, they need to make sure that they ask permission of other students before they post information.
Okay.
Because the student may not want to be posted on their particular social media sites. They also need to make sure that they understand that they can affect another person's digital footprint by, putting a direct tag for that particular student. And also, they need to make sure that they don't share screenshots.
Right.
Because those can live forever.
Right, right.
That happens a lot. We see teenagers texting with each other, taking a screenshot of that
Right.
conversation and sharing it with someone else.
Right.
And they need to consider that a private conversation.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in the counseling
Yes.
office. They bring the entire screenshot in and share it with us as documentation of the offense.
Nothing positive usually happens from that because it was a conversation between two people.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Sometimes students just need to realize that sometimes a face-to-face conversation or a phone call is actually better than texting each other or sending something via online.
I certainly agree. Also, we hear a lot about students being in risky relationships. Can you kind of explain a risky relationship that would be online?
Well, I think the best way to answer that question is for students to answer these questions. Number one, has that person that I have an online relationship with asked me to ever keep something secret
Right.
about the relationship?
Okay.
Number two, has that person ever made any type of comment about a sexual activity?
Okay.
Thirdly, has this person ever made me feel manipulated or pressured in any way? And if a person answers yes to any of those questions, they need to end the conversation and talk to a trusted adult because those are red flags, definitely.
Certainly. In our counseling office, we receive a lot of requests to meet with students regarding bullying, and now it's more cyberbullying. Can you give us some ideas on how to prevent cyberbullying here at Brookwood?
Well, one thing, students need to make sure they don't share passwords, even with someone who they feel like is a very trusted friend, because it can be shared unintentionally.
Okay.
Another thing, they need to make sure when they're sharing pictures that they keep their photos pretty PG rated, because that allows someone to have a certain perception of you and opens yourself opens themselves up to, you know, ridicule or comments by others.
Mhm.
They also need to realize that most sites or most social media has privacy controls, and they need to set up privacy controls so they can, you know, control what type of presence that they have out there and who can access their information. And make sure they're logging out of their online accounts. Sometimes within a website, there are passwords that you have to create.
Right.
If there is within a website a password, I would say definitely try not to do that, but make sure that they definitely log out of any sites that they're on so that their passwords are not saved or, you know, still within that particular website. And most importantly, make sure that they pause before they post. A lot of times students are reactionary and they post out of anger in a
Right.
response to something that has upset them.
Right.
So they kind of need to stop for a minute and just kind of calm down and maybe wait a while, maybe even a day, a couple of hours before they respond, or even don't even respond at all.
Right.
Sometimes students get this keyboard courage because they think they have this anonymity,
Right.
and they need to realize that, you know, IP addresses can be saved, and there's, even though they think they're anonymous, that someone can still trace it back to their computer and to them before they post things. So they need to kind of, you know, be aware that you can't just put racial slurs or
Right.
derogatory comments out there about others thinking you're under a pseudonym, because a lot of times we can still know who they are.
Right. Right.
And I think the old adage of, would you say this to them if they were standing in front of you applies here, because although a lot of teens, the majority of their communication is texting,
Right.
is would you say this if this person were in front of you? Would I be proud if my mother heard me say this, or my grandmother heard me say this? So you have to kind of keep yourself in check.
Well, thanks, Ms. Wilson and Ms. Collins. There it is, Brookwood. You've heard it from the best. You've heard it from our SROs, and these are the kinds of things that teenagers are dealing with, and we thought that it would be good for advisement. Thank you, and have a great day.